I'm joined now by the young sensation from the Philippines, Alex Ayala, fresh off of her defeat of the reigning champion, Iga Siontek. Alex, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for having me.
It was so wonderful and really emotional to watch. Now that you've had a couple of hours to digest your first ever match on center court, which you were quick to call the biggest of your career, how do you feel looking back on it?
I mean, it's an incredible way to charge into the second week of the Grand Slam, and it's the first time I was able to do it. So, such a core memory for me.
There is an invisible line on a spreadsheet inside the United States Tennis Association headquarters, and that line marks one very important number 32. Every player ranked above it earns a seeded position at this year's US Open. Every player below it does not. Across the entire 58-year history of the US Open in the Open era, not a single Filipino player, male or female, has ever finished above that line. Not once. Now that is about to change. At just 21 years old, Alex Ayala is on course to become the first Filipino in history to receive a seed at the US Open, and she isn't barely making it. She currently holds the world number 32 ranking and is expected to move into the high 20s once Wimbledon ranking points are officially added to the WTA standings. If she maintains that position through the seeding cutoff in August, a place that has remained empty beside every Filipino name since 1968 will finally have one written above the line. No grand celebration, no dramatic announcement, just history quietly being made. To appreciate how remarkable that moment would be, you have to remember where she stood only 2 years ago. Back in August 2024, on these same courts in Queens, Eala played in the final round of US Open qualifying against Romania's Elena Gabriela Ruse. Victory would have earned her a place in her first Grand Slam main draw as a professional. Instead, she fell 3-6, 6-1, 6-4. She left New York without qualifying and without ranking points to show for the effort. Fast forward just 24 months, and everything has changed. She is no longer battling for a place in the draw. Instead, she is projected to be seeded above the very player who once ended her dream, but nothing has been officially secured yet. That is the reality. The official US Open seeding list will not be finalized until roughly 6 weeks before the tournament begins. The deadline falls right in the middle of 2 major events on Ayala's schedule. The Wimbledon DC Open from July 25 through August 2, followed immediately by the National Bank Open in Toronto from August 2 through August 13. Neither tournament will be easy. The Washington field alone includes Elena Svitolina, Marta Kostyuk, Naomi Osaka, and Venus Williams, while Toronto is expected to feature nearly every top player on the WTA Tour. Even more importantly, several players are sitting only a few ranking spots behind Ayala, including Hailey Baptiste, Jelena Ostapenko, and Emma Raducanu. One outstanding tournament from any of them could completely reshape the seeding picture, so the situation is simple. Ayala is not chasing the final seed. She is protecting it. And in tennis, protecting a lead is very different from winning the match. The advantage is real, but the job is not finished. She still has to hold her position. Fortunately, one factor works heavily in her favor. She has very few ranking points to defend during this stretch. Last summer in 2025, she exited Toronto in the opening round and skipped Cincinnati because of a shoulder injury. That means there is little to lose and a tremendous amount to gain. A quarterfinal appearance in either Washington or Toronto could lift her beyond the career-high ranking she has already reached once this season. That is the challenge ahead, not a fierce rivalry, not controversy, simply a narrow ranking window that she must navigate successfully. The reason so many people believe she can do it is not based on hope. It is backed by results. The evidence comes in 3 clear parts. The first is the numbers. They explain how she reached this position in the first place. Ayala entered March 2026 ranked number 32 in the world, more than 100 places higher than she had been at the same point the previous season. On March 16, after reaching the round of 16 at Indian Wells, she climbed to a career-best ranking of number 29. Her clay season was inconsistent, something she openly admitted herself. She suffered early exits in Madrid, Paris against Eva Lies, and Rome against Elena Rybakina. Even so, she never slipped outside the world's top 50. When the grass court season arrived, so did her best tennis. She captured the Birmingham Open, claiming the WTA 125 title at the beginning of June. Then she produced another breakthrough in Berlin, reaching the semifinals while defeating two top 10 opponents along the way. Those performances earned her the number 29 seed at Wimbledon, making her the first Filipino singles player in history to be seeded at any Grand Slam. Because of that achievement, her projected US Open seeding is not some unexpected surprise. It is simply the next chapter in a journey that already crossed the line once during the grass season. The second piece of evidence is her upward trajectory, specifically what happened on center court at Wimbledon on July 4. Standing across the net was the defending champion, the world number 3, and a 5-time Grand Slam winner. The opening set lasted an incredible 90 minutes before Eala edged it in a thrilling 11-9 tiebreak. After the match, her opponent admitted that Eala's unusually paced serve created more problems than expected. She said, "It's much tougher to return a serve like that than a normal serve." The second set moved much more quickly. Just 36 minutes later, the scoreboard read 7-6, 6-2. Eala had reached the fourth round of a Grand Slam for the first time in her career, the deepest run ever achieved by a Filipino singles player at a major tournament. Her campaign ended one round later against the 13th seed, Jasmine Paolini, in 3 competitive sets. But that victory over the defending champion mattered for a much bigger reason than simply advancing. It proved something about her place in the rankings. When the world number 29 defeats the world number 3 on one of tennis' biggest stages, that ranking no longer represents her limit. It becomes her starting point. The third and final piece of evidence has nothing to do with statistics. It is about location, because New York, and specifically the USDA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, has become the backdrop for nearly every defining milestone of Alex Ayala's professional career. In September 2022, she won the US Open Girls Singles Championship there, defeating Lucy Havlicekova 6-2, 6-4 to become the first Filipino ever to capture a junior Grand Slam singles title. In August 2024, on those very same courts, she fell one match short of qualifying for the main draw after losing to Elena Gabriela Ruse. 1 year later, in August 2025, she returned and finally reached her first Grand Slam main draw as a professional. She immediately made history by defeating the 14th seed Clara Tauson in the opening round, becoming the first Filipino player in the Open era to win a Grand Slam main draw singles match. Now in August 2026, if her ranking remains where it is, she will return once again. This time not as a qualifier, not as an outsider, but as the first seeded Filipino competitor in US Open history. 4 Augusts, 1 venue. One extraordinary journey. The story almost feels as though it has chosen this place to unfold. Because of the significance of what could happen there, it's worth hearing from people who know those courts better than almost anyone. Greg Rusedski watched the match live from the commentary booth on center court. A former US Open finalist in 1997, a former world number 4, and a player who built his career on hard courts, Rusedski understands exactly what it takes to succeed on the stage Alex Ayala is preparing to enter. Speaking on BBC Radio 5, Live immediately after the match, he said, "This is someone who is going to win Wimbledon one day and could even reach the world's top 5. She's that talented." The next day, during his podcast, he expanded on that opinion. Eala has an incredibly high tennis IQ. The sky is the limit for her. Her mentality reminds me of Rafa. She never gives up, fights from the first point to the last, and always finds a way. Those are remarkable words from someone who has experienced the biggest stages in tennis firsthand. Pam Shriver, a 22-time Grand Slam doubles champion and former US Open finalist, was equally impressed. Appearing on the same BBC broadcast, she admitted, "I honestly can't believe what I just watched. That opening set was absolutely incredible." When 2 former US Open finalists independently describe the same young player in those terms during the same week, those comments carry real weight. They are not handing out compliments for headlines. They are giving professional evaluations based on decades of experience competing on the very court where Eala hopes to make history. And that is exactly why this milestone, the possibility of becoming the first seeded Filipino player at the US Open, is much more meaningful than a simple number beside her name. Before the Open era, only one Filipino truly left a lasting mark at Grand Slam level. His name was Felicissimo Ampon. Standing just 4 feet 11 inches tall, Ampon reached the quarterfinals of the French Championships in both 1952 and 1953. He is still regarded by many as the greatest Filipino tennis player of his generation, and perhaps the greatest before Alex Ayala. But his accomplishments came before the Open era began in 1968, long before today's modern seeding system existed. Since the start of the Open era, not a single Filipino man or woman has entered a Grand Slam singles draw as a seeded player. That changed at Wimbledon in 2026, where Eala became the first. If she maintains her ranking through the US Open cutoff, New York will become the second Grand Slam where she breaks that barrier. And fittingly, it would happen at the same venue where so much of her journey has unfolded, the place where she first dreamed, the place where she suffered heartbreak, the place where she finally broke through, and now, perhaps, the place where another chapter of history will be written. Only a week ago, moments after defeating Iga Siontek on center court, Eala stood before the crowd with tears in her eyes. She said, "I'm really emotional." Then she reflected on what the moment truly meant. Maybe for someone like Iga, who has won so many Grand Slams, or Serena or Venus, this doesn't seem like a huge achievement. But for someone who grew up in the Philippines, who trained every day after school with my brother and my grandfather, wearing ruffled socks, high-top shoes, and with chubby cheeks, this means everything. She then turned her attention to the Filipino supporters waving flags throughout the stadium. This is for all the little girls with ruffled socks and chubby cheeks. It means the world. Every seeded position begins as nothing more than a ranking on a spreadsheet. But this one represents much more than statistics. It carries the memories of afternoons spent practicing with her grandfather. It carries the worn-out high-top shoes on neighborhood courts in Quezon City. It carries years of sacrifice that cannot be measured by ranking points. That is what this line truly represents. Of course, none of this means the job is finished. 2 days after her victory over Siontek, Eala's Wimbledon run ended with a 3-set defeat to Jasmine Paolini, 4-6, 6-4, 6-3. The loss stung even more because Eala had defeated Paolini earlier this season in Dubai. Speaking afterward, she remained positive. "I'm happy with how I faced it head-on. I stayed calm when I needed to control my emotions. Every time I step onto the court, I truly believe I can win." After Wimbledon, she returned home to Manila for a brief break. A fan event is scheduled at the Glorieta Activity Center on July 15. After that, her attention shifts immediately to Washington, then Toronto. Then comes the final seeding cutoff. Either her position holds, or it doesn't. If it slips away, this story becomes one about how close she came. And Eala herself would be the first person to admit that nothing has been guaranteed yet. But consider how dramatically things have changed. The invisible line at world number 32, the same line that no Filipino had ever crossed at the US Open during the entire Open era, is now several positions behind her. She currently sits 4 to 6 spots above it. She enters 2 tournaments with very few ranking points to defend, meaning the risk is limited while the opportunity is enormous. Only 2 years ago, during this same stretch of the calendar, she was leaving Queens after falling in the final round of qualifying. Now, after 4 unforgettable Augusts on the same grounds, her journey has taken her from junior champion to heartbreaking qualifying defeat, to her first Grand Slam main draw victory as a professional. And now, barring an unexpected drop in the rankings, to becoming the first seeded Filipino player ever to compete in the US Open singles draw. On August 27, she's also scheduled to appear at the Stars of the Open Fan Week event alongside Joe Fonseca, Eva Jovic, and Lerna Tyne, young stars officially recognized by the tournament as part of tennis next generation. That is the company she now keeps. She belongs in that room. Not because someone invited her. Not because anyone decided she should be there, but because her ranking, her performances, and everything she has accomplished over the last 4 years have earned that place. Her emotional words on center court, the memories of ruffled socks, afternoons with her grandfather, and childhood dreams will always stay with the fans who have followed her journey from the beginning. But history will remember something even simpler, a line on a rankings sheet, a line that stood untouched for decades. A line that now finally has a Filipino name above it. If you've enjoyed following Alex Ayala's incredible rise and want to stay updated as she heads into Washington and Toronto, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Whether that seed becomes official or not, we'll be here to cover every step of the journey.